around 250 BC. They took this creation story from our African ancestral Memphite theology story. The Memphite theology story goes back 4,100 years BC. That's long before the Mosaic creation story. Our ancestors produced the first creation story known to the world. And as I started with the beginning where God says, let there be light, what was prior to the light? That means blackness. So God dwelt in total blackness. But long before the Jehovah creation story, long before there was a God named Allah, long before the term God today, our ancestors had a monotheistic concept of one God countless thousands of years ago throughout the African continent. In West Africa, we call God Eledamere. We see the Dogon said Ama. In Kenya, we said Ngai. So throughout the African continent, we had a concept of one God. But in Kemet, we had in the pre-dynastic period a God called Ptah. Ptah being jet black because our ancestors saw God in that time in our own image, and also that the key carbon atom for life in the universe is black. Now, Ptah in Kemet was called the God of darkness. When I've taken groups back to Kemet and people hear, oh, the God of darkness, I don't want to deal with no God of darkness. But in the Bible it says, God said, let there be light. What was prior to the light? Darkness. So here we see the God Ptah being jet black. So before the Jehovah God creating Adam out of the clay of the earth, our ancestors had the God Canaan creating man out of clay right here on the potter's wheel.
Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another week of Here to Help You. Dave Rankin, up on the case like Matlock, that's what I'm saying. As you can tell, I'm pretty much flying solo today. I'm missing my cohort, my inter and Simone Jennifer Smith. She's away on, I'm going to call it a business assignment because she's all the way to, sunny Jamaica, feet between the sands, laying upon, of course, the shores of the coast and taking in the nice summer breeze while we're here, of course, working very hard. Now, she's out there on assignment. She is working, definitely. I did receive a message from her. She will be back in time for the show this coming Friday, so please look out for her at that point in time. But today, I feel like telling some stories, and hence the title of our show today, African Creation Myth. Now, when we hear the word myth, sometimes we get the notion that myths definitely have a few variations of definitions. The first, which is blatant, which is a lie. We can understand that, definitely, right? However, though, if we look beyond, of course, that first definition, looking towards the other one which we're concentrating on today, is that myths simply are stories which hold a deeper and true understanding, right? And in fact, we're going to use some of our scholars to go into this today. First, I'm going to use the Egyptian scholar Mustafa Gadala in the book Egyptian Mystics. He explains the following, that myths or stories are better than exposition for explaining the behavior of things because the relationship of parts to each other and to the whole are better maintained by the mind. Now, when he says something like this, I can understand exactly why he would write something like this. Try explaining the Big Bang Theory in all its scientific terms to any layman person. Exactly. You get this blank look in their face. However, though, if you explain the Big Bang Theory in the form of a story, as Mustafa Gadala says, the relationship to each other, or the parts to each other, are better maintained by the mind, are better understood by the mind. Joseph Campbell, the world's great mythologist, he once said that myths are stories of our search through the ages for truth, for meaning, and for significance. And you can tell, especially now when you hear the stories of old, regardless of the culture or background that you come from, and you hear those stories, and you hear in regards to how the lessons have been taught to all of us, in regards to how to go and avoid certain things, or how to go ahead and make a certain decisions. In this case, how to understand, of course, how the world and its people came into be. Dr. Charles Finch, in his book, Echoes of the Old Dark Land, he said, through myth, archaic humanity sought to make tangible the imaginary, to create order from chaos, to give form to the unclear, and to make the cosmos intelligible. Myth was then and is now the truth that man could grasp. And it's true, especially when we begin to go into now some of these stories, we can hear in regards to how did these people go ahead and come up with these things, in regards to how relatable it is. And more importantly, when we go into commonalities, you can see central themes in there as well. And last, I'm going to end off my my section here on myths with Mustafa Gadala, and he says there in the book Ancient Egyptian Roots of Christianity, well-crafted allegories or myths simply are the only way to explain the deepest truths about God, creation, life, the soul, our place in the universe, our struggle to evolve to higher levels of insight and understanding. And it's great you can go ahead and actually write something like this to and explain in regards to, of course, the heavy lifting that myth does have in our society. These stories, of course, whether it be archaic or will never be, for lack of a better term, never be ousted in our society. I think myth, definitely we need, of course, those stories to go ahead and make sure that we can go ahead and understand what's going around us sometimes. Now, we're going to go ahead and take a look at a few commonalities in regards to some of the African myths. And this is taken from the Encyclopedia of African Religion, written by Molefe K. Asante, and as well as I forget her last name, Mazama. That's right. They're both professors at Temple University, by the way. So, in general, Africans believe that the universe was brought into existence by the action of a single god or a set of gods on behalf of the supreme being. African creation systems are predicated on a pre- or self-existing entity bringing something into existence out of nothing. Often there was nothing in existence before creation except the flow of cosmic spiritual energy emanating from God. This energy flow is the essence of the supreme being and is infused in all things on creation. And this is an excellent point here, especially when we begin to go into the creation types. The book which I will be quoting from is The Creation of Myths of the World, and it's actually an encyclopedia on creation stories. And this is written by David Adams Leeming. And there are 5 of them. We may not get through all of them before the break. However, though, we'll see what we can do. The first one is called ex nihilo. That's Nihilo. They include creation pretty much from nothing. The simple fact of creation from nothing, or ex nihilo, creation myth type is a supreme deity existing alone in a pre-creation emptiness or void, who consciously creates an organized universe on his own. Or her own, because I'm sure we have female deities out there who do the same, right? You can find that especially within the biblical sense of the creation story, and you will hear examples of that, especially when we go through some of the examples of the myths from the diaspora as well. Chaos is the second myth type, or creation type, that is. Creation from a pre-existing or an undifferentiated or chaotic state, represented by primal elements or sometimes by a primal object, such as a cosmic egg. Simply meaning this, where the first type, or the ex nihilo, creates himself pretty much from scratch. This creation type, chaos, simply means a creation from chaos, from pretty much an existing matter, or matter, or substance which is already here, right? So I definitely have some examples. We'll go through that once we come back from our first break. We'll see you then.
Hello everyone, my name is Jermaine Chambers, and I'm very excited to tell you about the newest political and current affairs program coming here to Brampton. It's called On Point.
The first step of true reconciliation is learning more about one another.
Join us on Tuesdays from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. as we discuss all the issues.
I will never forget the trust you put in me.
Municipal, provincial, federal, and any issue of national importance we will talk about on Point. So do join us.
At Benjamin Law, we understand the real cost of personal injuries. As the victim of an accident, you may be the one who's physically hurt, but your main concern is that your family are the ones who will pay the price. Benjamin Law will be there for you, helping, supporting, and working tirelessly to resolve your personal injury case. Call 1-855-899-4878 or visit benjaminlaw.ca and let our family of lawyers help your family.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Jehovah God creating Adam out of the clay of the earth. Our ancestors had the god Canaan, creating man out of clay right here on the potter's wheel. These are stories that our ancestors had, many creation stories, where people came in like vultures and picked at various creation stories down through the ages. So again, brothers and sisters, it's up out of the African Nile Valley that we're going to go today. Let's get into the land of Ethiopia, because this is the first nation that is spoke of in the Bible. So let's deal with this.
Sorry, you got me caught up looking at the video. Our great scholar, Dr. Asher Kwesi, he was there explaining, of course, an Egyptian origin of creation stories, especially now when you look at how the stories were spread out amongst the world, right? I'm Dave Rankin. This is here to help you, and we're talking African creation stories. Before the break, we're simply going ahead and breaking down a few terminologies. First, of course, we're looking at myths, their definitions. One of the myths, of course, being a lie, which a lot of people do hold on to. The second definition of a myth simply is the one that we're looking at today, is that myths are simply stories which tell us a deeper truth. And we went through, of course, the various scholars which went ahead and supported that definition as well. Before the break, we attempted to go ahead and actually go through two creation myth types. The first was what is called as an ex nihilo, simply where a creator creates himself or herself from scratch, pretty much emptiness, void. Right? The second, which we went through just before the break, which I'll explain again, which is chaos, which simply means the following: creation from a pre-existing, an undifferentiated, or chaotic state represented by primal elements, or sometimes by a primal object, such as a cosmic egg. I got examples for this so that we can go ahead and actually understand that just a little bit further. For instance, the Ija of Nigeria, they tell a tale of a table that descended to earth with a pile of created earth on it. Right? I'm not sure how to go ahead and explain that, but you can see, of course, that table, that ascension, or descension that is, right? And having that, of course, that matter already there, right? The California Cajeto Indians say that Nagahito, or Nagahicho, created the world by repairing the old sandstone sky, right? Again, another elemental force which is there prior to them, right? And also, and I like this one here, the Malagasy people of Madagascar, right? One day the creator noticed that his daughter was making little clay dolls. So he liked her dolls so much that he blew life into them, right? And thus became, of course, the creation of human beings, right? So, I mean, it's very interesting, regards, of course, how these stories come about. As we go through, of course, various stories of the continent, we will see, of course, there's similarities, as we discussed before, right? The third creation type, or myth type, that is, which is world parents. That is pretty much creation from the union, separation, division, or sacrifice, and even dismemberment of world parents. Simply, the world parent myth involves the breaking apart of a static primeval state. In one form of the world parent myth, the beginning consists of the eternal union of parents, a unit that has to be broken in order for creation to take place. I got a couple examples so we can go ahead and really hone this down. So for instance, the Karachi people of Togo and Ghana, they tell how in the beginning, male sky lived on top of female earth, and that man somehow lived in between them, of course, with little room to move. At some point in time, they were all separated, and of course, and now we have a creation story, right? It also reminds me of a story in the Coming Forth by Day by Night, misnamed or misnumbered at the Book of the Dead, where Nut and Geb, sky goddess Nut and the earth god Geb, they were also together, right? And the story goes as follows: how Ra was in love with Nut, and he loved her so much. In fact, she was that lovely that Geb also loved her. So with him knowing that, he forbade the two of them to go ahead and make love. And of course, when you tell children not to do something, they go do it anyways. So once he found out, and like any other parent, he separates them. And that's how we have the creation, of course, the other gods, and so on and so forth. right? So, I mean, it's interesting in regards, of course, once again, how these stories are relatable. I'm sure we can go ahead and see the scientific properties within each story as well. But more importantly, as we go ahead and discuss more and more in regards to these myths, right? We can see, of course, the commonalities, as I mentioned before. The second one that I'm going through here today, emergence, which is creation by way of a hole in the earth. Right. You won't really find this a whole lot in African folklore. However, though, it is peculiar to native North Americans. For instance, the Acoma, the Laguna, and the Zia peoples of New Mexico tell of two sister spirits living in the darkness of an underworld where they were taught and fed by a goddess figure called Thinking Woman or Prophesying Woman. Right. And of course, by their means, they would then populate the earth and so on and so forth. Right. Earth Diver, which is the last of the fifth here, which is an interesting one as well, and I mean this by this. It is simply creation by means of diving into the depths of primordial waters. It is a myth type that stresses creation of earth. Animals often play an important role in this creation, as do the primordial waters, and often an evil force that balances the good in a dualistic tension. This year, you would find real central, more central to inhabitants of Asia, of course, India, native North America as well. In the Indian Vishnu Purana, the creator god Brahma, it says there that he awoke and decided that there was earth below the primordial waters that were everywhere. Brahma took the form of a great boar and dove down to find Mother Earth, and thus, of course, raised her above the waters. Right? So, I mean, it is an interesting one. Once again, I mean, I'm because of time sensitivity, I haven't found any other ones to go that fit the description of the last two. However, I can surely say that if our viewers out there, they do know of any other myths that we possibly will miss today or simply will not go through today, or simply, you do have your favorite African creation story, please share. I'm always fascinated, of course, by the storytelling of our foreparents. And more importantly, it gives us a chance to go and learn from each other as well. All right. Now, another commonality you can find in African myths or storytelling is that you are going to find some elements, in this case, elemental forces or symbols within the actual mythology. For instance, picture number 1, you mind putting that up? It should be, yes, there we are. The 4 elements as we see here: air, earth, water, and of course, fire. With clay, which is, of course, is a combination of these elements here, because you need our 4, you need pretty much all 4 of them to go ahead and make clay. Right? Throughout Africa, creation stories according to which the first human beings were created out of clay are so very, very common. For instance, the Yoruba creation story in which Obatala, the son of Olorun, the supreme Yoruba god, created the first 16 human beings out of clay, which he molded. The story goes as follows. He was given a long gold chain to reach the earth below, a snail shell filled with sand, a white hen, and a black cat, and as well as a palm nut, right? And all of which, of course, he carried with him in a bag as he was lowered down onto the earth, right? When he was ready, of course, he went ahead now and actually spread the sand all over what was there, to form dry land, right? The bigger piles becoming hills and the smaller ones becoming valleys, right? He jumped on a hill and named this the place of life, right? He dug a hole and planted the palm nut and saw it grow to maturity in a flash, right? The hen, of course, went ahead and scratched over, of course, the sand as well, making sure, of course, it was fertile as well, right? So we can see in regards to how Obatala, of course, was giving this a task of forming, of course, humans out of clay, right? And this, in fact, within the story, he says this later on in the story. Well, it's written later in the story, that many months had passed and he grew bored of this routine, right? So he decided to create human beings like himself to keep company. He dug into the sand and found clay, which, to mold figures like himself, and started on his task, right? So from here, of course, we can see how he went ahead and molded human beings out of clay. The Shuloks of Sudan also tell a story in which the god Jo'ok made human beings out of clay. I think we have pictures 2 and 3. The Shuluk people, yes, the Shuluk warriors, beautiful. Right, Juk molded all men of earth while he wandered the earth, creating the rest of the world. White men he created from white sand, which Juk found in the land of the whites. Red or brown men were created out of the mud of the Nile in Egypt, and black men were created from black earth found in the land of the Shuluk. right? So also we can see here in regards to the forming of clay, right? This is a beautiful picture of a Shilluk woman there as well, right? So it's wonderful in regards to how we can go ahead now and see the commonalities. Of course, once again, in this case here, of human beings being fashioned out of clay, right? There are other ones definitely. However, though, we are approaching our second break, and stay with me. We're talking all things African creation myths here. I'm here to help you.
With so many newspapers within the community, it's sometimes hard to tell what separates us from the rest. Most of the time, they all brag about the same thing. You know, the large circulations, tons of online views, and it can go on and on. But what really separates the Toronto Caribbean newspaper apart from everybody else? Well, it's simple. Our service. No, seriously. Hi, I'm Grant Browning, founder and CEO of the Toronto Caribbean newspaper. I have over 20 years of branding and marketing experience, and I've worked with countless companies and corporations to do one thing, and that is to raise their profits with their brand. With over 40 years of combined experience in branding and marketing, our amazing staff is fully prepared to sit down and figure out exactly what you need to stand out from your competitors.
The reason why you don't see that anymore is because
the ad is too powerful, bring too much people.
So what are you waiting for? Give us a call today. We'll be happy to help.
Greetings and welcome back to Here to Help You. I are Dave Ranking at the controls. As you can tell, I'm filing solo. So bear with me. Of course, you can tell that I'm normally used to having my cohort with me, but she is away in sunny JA, doing wonderful things there. Before the break, we were talking about now, of course, commonalities and elemental forces within the creation stories. The last one here, of course, being clay. We mentioned, of course, the Shilluks of Sudan, which are kind of how he molded, of course, fashioned man out of earth. Also, we mentioned Obatala, and how he himself went ahead and actually fashioned man, from clay as well. It reminds me of the god Khnum. And in fact, we can show pictures 4 and 5, and how he was mentioned as the potter of man. And in fact, Hatshepsut, the first female pharaoh, it is said to her that she believed that she was fashioned by the hands of Khnum as well. It states here, it is written that Amen-Ra called Khnum, the creator, the fashioner of bodies of men. Fashion for me the body of my daughter and the body of her Ka, said Amen-Ra. A great queen shall I make of her, and honor and power shall be worthy of her dignity and glory. O Amen-Ra answered Khnum, it shall be done as you have said. The beauty of your daughter shall surpass that of the gods and shall be worthy of her dignity. Right, so Khnum fashioned the body of Amen-Ra's daughter, in this case Hatshepsut, and as well as her Ka, the two forms exactly alike, more beautiful than the daughters of men. Right, so we see here once again how in ancient Egypt, that mythology or motif of clay, fashioning people out of clay or out of the earth, is something we can see here. Next, earth as a elemental force. We also know that we mentioned before regards to clay. We need all elements, of course, to make clay, but specifically earth. We do have some traditional African societies which in fact regard earth as sacred, and more importantly, it is a vital and living entity. For instance, the Akan accept the ideal that the earth is a principal source of life for all humans. The earth is a deity in the form of Asante and is the goddess of fertility, and that one must walk softly on the earth so not to cause harm to its surface. The person who stomps and tramples on the earth with no regard for its sacred nature brings shame on his or her community. So we can see, of course, the spiritual aspect, of course, of this thing earth, of this elemental force earth, right? And as well as, of course, this being fashioned or placed into the African creation myth of the Akan people. Next, we're looking at water. The form of the primeval water has been at the center of the explanation of origins since the existence. In the Kemetic or ancient Egyptian creation story, Nun, or the primordial waters, is the oldest and most fundamental substance in the cosmos, containing all the possibilities of existence. You can also find other examples in the Yoruba tradition, the Dogon, the Bambara, Akan, and as well as Edo in West Africa. I like the Yoruba one. We may get a chance to go through it today in regards to, of course, Onkulunku rising from the marshes. It's a beautiful story. We may get into it. However, though, if not, jump online, www.here-2-help.com, as well as the MITCN website, so that you can go ahead and see, of course, the written work there. For wind as an elemental fire or air, that is, among the Dogon at creation, or at creation, that is, a great wind broke from inside the pole, the tiniest element of creation. This wind, called Ama, moves in a spiral motion and provides the energy by which all things are created. It is written that the god Ama appeared and took a lump of clay, squeezed it in his head, and flung it from him, as he done with the stars. And the clay spread and fell on the north, which is the top, and from there stretched out to the south, which is the bottom of the world, right? And although, of course, the whole movement was horizontal. So we can see here in regards to that wind swirling, that energy here, in regards to the air bringing forth, of course, the formation of dry land. And of course, once we dive in a little bit more into the actual story, we can see in regards to how this wind actually plays a central part of the creation story. The last elemental force here, fire. I like this one for the Dagara cosmology, which is Western Africa. The notion of fire as the first fire is an aspect of all African spiritual systems connected via some spiritual essence, suggesting harmonious relationship between humans and a natural phenomena. Among the Dagara cosmology, it is written that in the beginning there was no earth as we know it. In its place was a burning planet, a ball of fire combusting at high speed. It was not until this moving and burning sphere encountered a huge body of water that these things began to change. The shock resulting from the collision of fire and water not only slowed the combustion process, but also chased fire into the underworld, leaving the surface as a hot, steamy place, fertile for the breeding of all kinds of life forms. So there we can see in regards to fire, how it is central, of course, to a creation story as well among the Dagara. And as we actually dive into the actual myths, the stories, we can see in regards to what happens from here and in regards to how these elemental forces are being, of course, central in regards to, the motifs in the themes here, right? Among the Yao, and in fact, I'm going to dive in right now, and let's see in regards to, we can go and point out in regards to some of the myth types and as well as the commonalities in regards to elemental forces. Among the Yao people who live on the shores of Lake Nyassa in northern Mozambique, unlike many Bantu tribes who envision a heavenly origin for people, the Yao assert their emergence from the earth, or in this case here, from water as well. The next morning when he, or chameleon, pulled the trap, he found a little man and woman in it. He had never seen any creatures like this. What can they be, he said. Today I behold the unknown. And he picked the fish trap up and took the two creatures to Mulungu. Father, said the chameleon, see what I have brought. Mulungu looked. Take them out of the trap, he said. Put them down on the earth and they will grow. Chameleon did this, and the man and woman grew, and they grew until they became as tall as men and women today. So we can see here, of course, the elemental forces of water, right? How, in this case, the water brings forth, or as the Bible likes to say, let the waters bring forth, right? We can see how in regards to now, of course, what the waters brought forth, and now man and woman were then taken to earth to be nurtured. And of course, in this story, they grew to become tall as men and women of today. Bomba, I like the story here. Can you put the picture up, number 8 for me, please? Oh yeah, this one right here. Bomba, and how he vomits the world. So the Bushunga, or the Bakuba, a Bantu people of the Congo River region in Zaire, describe the creation in generative terms. Along in the dark and watery chaos without a mate, Bomba vomited forth the powers of the world. And listen to the beginning here. It says here, in the beginning, in the dark, there was nothing but water, and Bomba was alone. One day, Bomba was in terrible pain. He retched and strained and vomited up the sun. After that light spread over everything, the heat of the sun dried up the water until the black edges of the world began to show. Black sandbanks and reefs could be seen, but there were no living things. Bumba vomited up the moon and then the stars, and after that, the night had its own light also. Still, Bumba was in pain. He strained again, and 9 living creatures came forth. The leopard, the eagle, the crocodile, the little fish. I know someone's going to get me for this one here. The tortoise, the testy, the heron, a beetle, and a goat. And last forth, of course, came forth men, right? So we can see how a few things here in regards to creation types. Number one, we can see here in regards to chaos, in regards to Bumba vomiting up everything, right? There's no mention in regards to him emanating from a source or being created himself. So definitely, of course, at some point in time, maybe Bumba creates himself, right? But also this vomit now, we can probably see in regards to the relationship here to the Big Bang Theory, right? So, you know, with this strain now, and then all of a sudden now something taking place in the atmosphere of the cosmos, and then of course the sun takes place or begins to form, and then the moon and the stars and so on and so forth, right? So I mean, we can definitely see, of course, you know, the commonalities being worked here within the mythology. We're going to go on another break. By means, when we return back, we're going to jump into a few other myths, and of course, you know, stay with me here. You know, hopefully we get some callers who can go in and share their favorite creation myths as well.
Hello everyone, my name is Jermaine Chambers, and I'm very excited to tell you about the newest political and current affairs program coming here to Brampton. It's called On Point.
The first step of true reconciliation is learning more about one another.
Join us on Tuesdays from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. as we discuss all the issues.
I will never forget the trust you put in me.
Municipal, provincial, federal, and any issue of national importance we will talk about on Point. So do join us.
At Benjamin Law, we understand the real cost of personal injuries. As the victim of an accident, you may be the one who's physically hurt, but your main concern is that your family are the ones who will pay the price. Benjamin Law will be there for you, helping, supporting, and working tirelessly to resolve your personal injury case. Call 1-855-899-4878 or visit benjaminlaw.ca and let our family of lawyers help your family.
There was only the sky above and waters below, and this was ruled by the mighty Orisha, the council of gods. Olorun ruled the sky above, and Olokun was master of all that was in the waters below. One day, a god named Obatala decided to create dry land. He asked for permission from Olorun and advice from Orunmila, the wisest of the Orisha. You will need a long gold chain, a snail shell filled with sand, a white hen, a black cat, and a palm nut, said Orunmila. Once he had all of these items in a bag, Obatala hung the gold chain from a corner in the sky and began to climb down, down, down. He kept climbing down, down, down for a very long, long time, until he finally reached the bottom of the chain. Obatala poured the sand from the shell into the mist below and released the hen. The hen landed on the sand and immediately began pecking and scratching, scattering the sand into all directions.
Greetings, and welcome back here. I'm here to help you. I'm Dave Rankin. As our subject today is, we're talking African creation myths. We're looking at commonalities, of course, similar motifs or themes throughout, of course, the mythologies. We're also looking in regards to what we mentioned before, the earlier segments regarding the creation types, the ex nihilo, the chaos, the world parents, which you can see those three themes, or types, that is, which they're very central throughout, of course, the mythology of our people. You know, before we, of course, we went out, we went to the last break there, we were giving more specific examples of the mythologies. We've talked about, of course, Bumba, and of course, how he vomited up, of course, the sun and the moon, and so on and so forth. And that we can tie that into, of course, the relationship to the Big Bang Theory. We also looked at in regards to now the, sorry, just scrolling here, the Yao, yes, the Yao people, and how the chameleon found men and women in a fish trap from the water. So, I mean, it's interesting in regards to, of course, how these stories have been driven, but more important in regards to as we begin to have a certain understanding or a better understanding in regards to the types and similarities, we can see in regards to a central story has been spread out throughout the continent, and of course, reaching it, of course, the very shores of the diaspora. Among the Mande-speaking peoples of Mali, God's first attempt to create a single seed ended in failure, and thereafter he made everything balanced and twinned. The 8 seeds and the 2 pairs of archetypical twins in the egg of God, or the egg of the world, eventually contain all the forces that gave rise to people, the world, and nature. God Mangala first created the Balaza seed, which however was a failure. So he abandoned it in order to create twin varieties of the Illucine seed, and I hope I'm saying that correctly, Fani Berer and Fani Ba. Thus, as the Kita say, he made the egg of the world in 2 twin parts, which were to procreate. This reminds me of the story of the Agdawad. Picture 10, can you mind putting that up, picture 10? Perfect. Yes, the Agdawad in the city of Kamenu, of Kanunu, which literally means the city of 8. The 4 pairs, they emerged as creative powers of sources from the God himself, Kanum. Nun and Nunet represented the primeval waters. Het and Ha-Het represented eternity. Ka and Kaket represented darkness, and Amun and Amunet represented air, or that which is hidden. There were also animal types. The male figures had the heads of frogs, and of course the females, I believe, were serpents. So I mean, we could see, of course, that energy there, the creative forces there, and of course the frogs and serpent types as well, right? Yes, Nana Boluku, the fawn of the Dahomey. Nana Boluku, she is central to not just the fawn of the Dahomey, but also to the Yoruba people as well. And it's as follows. Although the fawn usually speak of Mawu, which is moon, a female god, and Liza, which is the sun or male god, as supreme, this myth tells of a greater god, I'm not going to say this word, however, though, the Nana Boluku, who simply houses both male and female aspects between her, or within her, that is, right? Who bore them and then retired from the world. It is written here that the world was created by one God, who is at the same time both male and female. This creator is neither Mawu or nor Liza, but is named Nana Boluku. And in time, Nana Boluku gave birth to twins who were named Mawu and Liza, and to whom eventually dominion over the realm thus created and was seated, right? So we can see, of course, a trinity taking place, which is also a commonality among the African creation stories. You can find trinities all over the ancient Kemetic myths, anywhere from, of course, from Atum, Shu, and Tefnut to, of course, Atum, Ptah, and as well as Nun, right? Next, we're going to go to the Dinka people. Can I put a picture 11 for me? Yes, the beautiful Dinka people of the Sudan. So they believe their creator, the Nahalik, made a book, which is female, and Garang, which is male, the first man and female out of rich clay of the Sudan. Once a book and Garang were created, they were placed in a huge pot. When the creator opened the pot, the man and woman were fully formed as good-looking beings, except the woman was small, much smaller than the creator thought good. Therefore, a book was placed into a container full of water. She was left there for a time, and then when she had swelled up like a sponge to the size of a regular human being, the creator was pleased. So also, once again, amongst the Dinka, we can see the elemental forces of water. We could see, in regards to, of course, how the water brought forth. In this case, once again, also an actual trinity here as well, with Nahalek and then Abuk and Garang as well, right? I'm going to go into one more mythology before we go ahead and wrap up. The Abaluyiha. And I hope I'm saying that correctly. Please apologize. I definitely apologize if I don't. They are a group, in fact, that lives in parts of Kenya and parts of Uganda. So the world was created by the mighty Wele Zakaba, the supreme being, he made his own dwelling in heaven, and to prevent it from falling out of the sky, he supported it with many pillars, just as the builders of a house support the roof with many pillars. In 6 days, Wele Zakaba had completed the work of creation, and on the seventh day he rested. So we can see here, some similarities, of course, to a Christian creation story there, or a Judeo-Christian creation story, having, of course, the Hebrew God creating, the world in 6 days, and on the seventh he rested. But also, again, we see the Trinity taking place, right? Sorry, not the Trinity, but however, though, of course, the other similarities, which we didn't go into before, were simply supporters of heaven and earth. In this case here, in the form of Shu, as heir, he also supported, his, I'm going to say daughter. Yeah, I should say that, daughter. Nut, the sky goddess here, the heaven, right? So, we can see various aspects here, which are wonderful, which definitely have similarities, commonalities, but more importantly, there was a single story that was spread amongst, of course, the inhabitants of the continent, as we can see with all the likeness in each and one of the stories. And by means, it definitely serves a purpose today in regards to our understanding of course, how earth or how man came into being, and more importantly, in regards to what our role is to continue on telling the stories and making sure these stories will not be lost. As we close out here today, I want to go ahead and thank you very much for taking the time to go ahead and sit through this with me. I had a blast of telling these stories here. We'll see you next week. Simone Jennifer Smith will be back with us next week. And in fact, tune in this Friday for In and Now, where she'll go ahead and be her, of course, rambunctious self, telling, of course, the wonderful things which happen in Jamaica. We'll see y'all next week. Peace and love, family.
Damballa, the father serpent, created all the oceans and seas of the earth. As he moved through the endless waters, his 7,000 coils formed great valleys and mountains on the new earth. He brought forth stars and planets in the heavens, and the sun and the moon. He created different metals from the heat, and sent forth lightning bolts, which formed sacred rocks. When all of this was done, Damballa shed his skin. This caused great flooding on earth. But when it was done, the sun shone brightly over the waters and created the first rainbow. The rainbow is called Ida-Wada. Damballa fell in love with the beautiful rainbow and made her his wife. Damballa, in Ida-Wada, created the first city of Ife. It was the source of all power, all creations, and spirituality. The first of the Loa, or gods, descended to Ife to live.
At Benjamin Law, we understand the real cost of personal injuries. As the victim of an accident, you may be the one who's physically hurt, but your main concern is that your family are the ones who will pay the price. Benjamin Law will be there for you, helping, supporting, and working tirelessly to resolve your personal injury case. Call 1-855-899-4878 or visit benjaminlaw.ca and let our family of lawyers help your family.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the program host and do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions held by TCN TV Network Incorporated. Due to the social nature of this broadcasting channel, videos may contain content copyrighted by another entity or person. The TCN TV Network claims no rights to the said content. TCN TV Network cannot be held accountable for the copyrighted content. TCN TV Network is a messenger and sharer of information and strives to verify but cannot warrant the accuracy of copyrights or completeness of the information on this program.